How a Muslim American gonna make it to the mainstream? Brother Abdullah has an idea.
I employed all the years and weeks of techniques to transmit, speak at the highest peak. Reek with the oud. Some dudes don't know that. You gotta end the light, but you just don't show that. Stop it, follow the prophet to advance. Cause you don't stumble on enlightenment by chance. Yo, the infinite sent a message through a man, through his uncle. He was from the Beni Hashem clan. Ran from idol worship as he was a Hanif. Not out of fear, he was clear what lies beneath.
Welcome back. As you can see, this is the reaction of Muslim American here in the Twin Cities about the Intifada against the Ground Zero Mosque. We have here our guest, a very special guest here, Dr. Ahmed Samatar, Dean of the International Global Citizen here at McAllister. He is going to talk about what it means to the relationship between America and Islam and what that tells us about America itself. Welcome to BelAhdan, Dr. Samatar.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you.
You know, I've been struggling with this, and I think it's been a while. It's been old. Everybody knows the story, the details, what's going on, and the media hype about this, and also hype from both sides. But from what you see, the reaction of the Americans when thousands, millions of people, and average people marching in the streets, taking their kids and marching against a building or against here you have the secular place, which is Ground Zero Mosque. The secular place becomes a divine, and a divine place becomes secular. So tell us a little bit about what that tells us about America and about the relationship between America and Islam.
Well, I think it tells us that the American society on the whole, on issues like this, can be broken into three, I think. One group, I think a significant part of the American population, do not know. And therefore, they could be easily bamboozled by those who want to distort whatever that reality is, whether in this case it is the issue that has to do with the Islamic Center, or other issues that affect other communities.
Liberate Kuwait.
Yeah, right. Or it could be affecting Jewish people, it could be affecting Christian people. But it is those who are not in the know. They are not well informed, so they get easily hoodwinked into believing a propaganda or a twisted kind of a logic. And then there is a second, I think, category of Americans who are very progressive, who are very tolerant, and they really epitomize deep American reality from my point of view, and the Constitution of the United States. And those should not be overlooked. And then there is a third category, which I think could be a minority, but the loudest perhaps of them all. And those are the ones that I think wire together rather hard a project of religious bigotry, maybe even racist mentality, and therefore an America that only belongs to them, but not to the others. So I think we have to distinguish these three groups. The loudest and the most upfront, as far as I can see so far, are the third category. But many Americans who are tolerant, who are on the know, and who understand the deep sacred principles of the United States also are standing up and asking for fairness and tolerance.
And I think we hear that from even the mayor in New York, which is the highest one in that area. But when you say 70% of the American people are against the mosque, that's a lot of people.
Yes.
From those three groups.
Yes.
That three group may be another issue, but when it comes to, I don't know what about Islam and Muslim that really galvanize Americans.
Well, I think perhaps a number of issues come together. You and I know that the Islamic world for now a period of at least maybe 200 years, if not more, and certainly in our own contemporary era, is conspicuously societies that are caught up in difficult projects of modernization and development, whether it's at the level of democratic politics, whether at the level of creating a viable economic systems and civic rights and civil rights, religious tolerance, even in the Islamic world itself. Religious tolerance is increasingly becoming a very rare reality. So there is that image of the Muslim world caught up in some kind of a backward political mentality. And then secondly, I think it is the violence that's propagated by small, very small, almost negligible in terms of numbers, but rather cruel and irresponsible, violent people who do that on the name of Islam, which creates, therefore, a compounded kind of a noise around the world, as if all Muslims and the religion itself
is like the loudest group here.
Exactly. So that, I think, is the second question. And I think the third thing that comes into this, of course, is the fact that for many Americans, and at one level understandably, the place and the location of the 9/11 catastrophe, murderous catastrophe, reminds many people a sense of bereavement, and therefore one could understand why innocent Americans would want to say maybe some other place for the mosque. And by the way, this is not just a mosque, this is a major complex civic center with all kinds of other facilities, but maybe some other place. Now, a debate can be had between that particular mentality of the American people who think maybe some other place, and those who think that they have a legal and constitutional right to build this center in that particular place, which, by the way, is not on the site.
No.
It is at least
and
two
also
blocks away.
It's not just the site that generated that kind of reaction for the America. I mean, there are a lot of other mosques in the less hallowed places, and people are still against it in Wisconsin, California. But the thing is,
well, it's not only that. I think this is, you are now hitting the third group that I was talking about in the American society, which is really racial bigotry with a dimension of racist kind of a militancy, included in this.
Sure.
And there is, for example, this pastor, a small church perhaps, but a pastor, Christian pastor, I think somewhere in the south, I can't remember, maybe in Georgia or someplace. Florida.
The one that burned the Quran?
Yes, who is now preparing
for this.
He was
caught, downloading child pornography.
That's right, but his project was to create a day in which the Quran will be burnt, because he thinks Islam is an evil religion. So there are, that's the third component of American society I was talking about.
Is this a referendum?
And those need to be pushed back.
Is this a referendum on that site, on that mosque, or on Islam? People start discussing Islam treatment of women, Islam treatment of democracy. But are we talking about, we can make sure that the church, that the Catholic churches, wherever they are kosher, before we build church, it's becoming a referendum on Islam itself.
I think all religions, Islam and Christianity and Judaism and Buddhism and Hinduism and others, all religions have got both their glorious divine dimension and dimensions that are quite outrageous and violate some very basic human dignities. Issue of sexuality, for example, in the Catholic Church, and child pornography and all of this in some of these places is quite obvious. But I think all religions ought to be, therefore, at any given time, any civilized society, ought to at once embrace the deep divine principles of all religions. But at the same time, keep an eye on religion so that it doesn't become too extreme and then become like the serpent that is chasing its own or biting its own tail.
Sure.
You see. And Islam, in that sense, is not different.
Yeah.
It is like all religions, and therefore ought to be both embraced in terms of its goodness, but at the same time kept a critical eye on its dimensions.
It seems we always compare our best with other worst. We don't compare, the glorious time of each, and we say no monopoly on the stupidity.
Well, I think one of the great tragedies of the Western world that we are part of. I have grown up here in the United States. I have lived most of my life here in the United States. This is a country that I treasure a great deal, and I will defend its basic principles wherever I am. But I think the tragedy of the Western world, broadly and culturally speaking, not in small academic and informed circles, is the tremendous ignorance about the Islamic civilization and its achievements. I go around the world giving lectures on these, and I'm stunned, even in universities, how very little most people know about this.
How about Europe?
And if you don't know, therefore, the weight of this civilization, you become easily susceptible to lies and
demean it, whatever.
And also.
How about Europe? You've been in Europe. You just came back. Do you see the same audience, same reaction? Are the people there a little bit? They're closer to Islam. They are directly.
Yes, I mean.